What's up, Bleacher Report, Instagram Live? A special good afternoon to those who started Derrick Henry in fantasy last night. I'm Connor Rogers, host of Stick to Football here at Bleacher Report, with my good buddy, close coworker, Jeff Johnson.
What's going on, man?
Jeff, I know you didn't start Derrick Henry.
I didn't start him. I didn't have him. I didn't face him. 238
yards, 4 touchdowns in the fantasy playoffs. So those who had him, are we buying this version of Derrick Henry, or is this the same old, we're getting fooled? He didn't top 60 yards this year before that, and last night goes off. Are you buying or selling this?
I'm going to sell it only because it's Thursday Night Football. So that means one team is going to have a phenomenal game and the other team's going to be trash. I've seen it the whole season, and Derrick Henry just caught lightning in a bottle.
And that's a Jacksonville team that looked like they quit on their coach last night, wanted nothing to do with tackling the 245-pound back. Derrick Henry, former Heisman Trophy winner. I don't know if you heard, this weekend, Saturday night, we're going to have a new Heisman Trophy winner, and we're going to talk about those today. So start commenting who you think should win. Is it Dwayne Haskins from Ohio State? Is it Kyler Murray from Oklahoma, who's going to play baseball, not football right now? And, of course, Tua Tagovailoa from Alabama, not the easiest name to say. We're going to run through them all. I'm going to have Jeff grade some of their biggest plays of the season, and I want you guys to grade your biggest plays. Get your votes in. We're going to start with the underdog in all this. That's Dwayne Haskins from Ohio State. Actually, the passing touchdown leader in the country with 47 passing touchdowns, but somehow still the underdog, not even close to being the favorite in this. We're going to show you a play, though, of what makes him special during this Buckeyes season. And this first play in the conference championship against Northwestern, this is getting outside of the pocket. This is what Haskins can really do with a strong arm on the move for a touchdown. Jeff, out of 10, just on seeing this play, and pretend you've never seen Dwayne Haskins before, even though I know you have, what are we giving this one?
It's hard for me not to give him a 10 because he looked like Mike Vick. He had the 7 on. He looked like Mike Vick there, evading the tackles, getting out of the pocket, and throwing on the run. There's nothing else more that you could want from that. Actually, you know what? Because we're grading other people, I'll start with a 9 for Dwayne because I want to see if anybody else wows me more than that.
Yeah, and speaking of wowing, we got another one with Kyler Murray from Oklahoma. Kyler Murray now, before the weekend was not, now is the odds-on favorite to win this award, which is absolutely crazy just from championship weekend. This Kyler Murray play shows why he is a special player, a special athlete. On the move, yes, he's 5'10", 185 pounds, but that's 4'3", 4'4" kind of speed. When you look at Kyler Murray, what stands out to me is he has 51 total touchdowns this year. Baker Mayfield, during his Heisman season, regular season, had 46. So, Jeff, is there any way we can even pick against Kyler Murray?
Well, for me, I always say if you're on the best team and you're the best player on the best team, that already gives you, you're like the front runner already, right? But he's topping all-time performance from Baker Mayfield, but that doesn't mean that somebody isn't better than Baker in that same season, which brings me to Tua.
And I gave you some extra time to stew on it. What are you grading the long run from Kyler Murray on that play? Is it topping Dwayne Haskins?
No. I'll give it an 8. Like, he scrambled and he hit that extra speed, that extra gear that he hit. I thought that was awesome, but I'll give it an 8. It wasn't anything that excited me, but if I was a fan, if I was a Buckeye fan or whatever, I would say, yeah, that's who I want.
All right, I see Yellow Boy in there. I'm from Ohio. He's not winning at all. Rambo Popey, Murray can do it all. Murray can do it all. Murray had 700 more rushing yards than Tua, 800 more rushing yards than Dwayne Haskins. I think that's what separates him from the pack. But finally, we're not getting out of this thing. We're talking about what seems like the crowd's favorite. 10% of the votes came in before the weekend. I think they were all for this guy, Tua Tagovailoa from the undefeated Alabama Crimson Tide. And this is why Alabama's offense has really stepped up to the next level this year. You look at Tua, be able to make that throw, the deep ball, it's his specialty. He's throwing to probably multiple first-round wide receivers, none of them eligible right now, all underclassmen. But when you look at Tua and how he's elevated this Alabama offense, before I get the grade, Jeff, why do you think all year, besides the fact they were undefeated, but why do you think all year Tua has been the odds-on favorite before this championship weekend?
Well, it's how he was introduced to us on the national stage. He took over against Georgia and was able to come in, and he had a spectacular performance. So it's what have you done for me lately? So that was what's in my mind when I see him. And he was able to keep that momentum going throughout the year.
Yeah, and when you look at Tua for this Crimson Tide team, hasn't lost a game, especially hasn't lost a start, but like you said, the national championship. What are you grading that throw we saw against Tennessee? That was what a lot of people consider one of his most impressive plays this year.
I think it's right up there with Haskins. I think Haskins was more exciting to me. He had to do a lot more and able to make it happen. But that throw, not too many people are making that throw on the run as precise as it was.
All right, let's get some thoughts from our Instagram Live friends. Joe Franks 3 says, Heisman goes to the best player, not the most valuable. Kyler over Tua. I'm with you, Joe Franks, on that one all the way. I think Kyler Murray is more important to those Oklahoma Sooners than Tua Tagovailoa is to the Alabama Crimson Tide. So, guys, keep getting those comments and questions in. This one from Trippy God Tyson. So we're just not going to talk about Dwayne elevated his team. JT Barrett wasn't a good thrower of the football. I think that's a good point. And, Jeff, I really want your thoughts on this. Ohio State lost one game, and it was a blowout against Purdue. But when you look at the way Dwayne Haskins has elevated that offense and can't play both sides of the ball, can't fix the defense, is that the argument for him? And even though he's the underdog, but the argument of why he can come away stealing this Heisman Trophy?
Yeah.
The Buckeye fans think so, clearly.
Right. I think you have to put that into perspective of what they were dealing with before, how he was able to elevate the offense. Because similar to the previous comment where they say it's the best player, not the most valuable, I think you could say Haskins is both to that team. He can't play defense himself, or we haven't seen it yet, right? But I think that is a very valid argument.
And this next comment actually brings me to a different topic with Kyler. This one from Dave the Rave Tamachi. Isn't Kyler leaving after this year? He is supposed to leave. He is supposed to play baseball. Now there's reports coming out that he hasn't made up his mind yet. If you had to pick for Kyler Murray, who is a 5'10", 185-pound undersized quarterback, do you take the safe route, take your $4.5 million from being an MLB first-round pick, and go play baseball? Or do you think, as we see more undersized quarterbacks in the league, do you think you take the chance and go play football?
He got $4 million to sign
the richest player playing college sports right now.
I think I have 4 million reasons why I would be going to play baseball if I was Kyler Murray. And I think with baseball, it's the safer sport. It's the sport where over time you can make more money as you get older. I mean, Bartolo Colon was still in the league making decent money well into his 40s and still serviceable. So for me, if he's projected already as a first-round pick, he's a first-round pick and he's projected to be in the league, why not go that route? I think he's done what he can. And he reminds me also of Charlie Ward, who was the Heisman Award-winning Charlie Ward and then went to play point guard for the Knicks and was a very serviceable, solid point guard.
Yeah, it must be nice to have options. And the college fans are speaking their minds as we get closer to the playoff. The playoff has been announced, and some fans not so happy about that Notre Dame team being in. This one from D'Angelo 25. Irish shouldn't be in the playoffs. What's going on? Even though they're not in a conference, and UCF knows this all too well, can you keep an undefeated Notre Dame team out of the playoff? The playoff committee clearly feels they should be in. How do you feel, even though Notre Dame didn't have a conference to win, do you think when you go undefeated and you're Notre Dame and you beat Michigan, you should be in, right? The audience doesn't think so.
I mean, well, they could keep UCF out. Why can't they keep Notre Dame out?
Fair.
I don't get how not being in a conference allows you to get that extra edge. It's almost like if we were betting on a game and I said, well, I'm using this person's money. I'm not really using my own, but I still benefit off of the wins and I don't have to pay it back to anybody else. That's how I feel like Notre Dame is with being in a non-conference and still getting that privilege because they are Notre Dame. You know what I mean? But we know it's about ratings. We know it's about there's a lot of non-football factors that go into it, but I'd be tight if I was a UCF alum, current student player.
All right, the audience is very anti-Tua, surprisingly. I think the Crimson Tide fans are not showing out today. This one from Mr. J. Spence. Murray and Haskins were more important to their teams than Tua. I agree with that. Alabama won a game without him. If Tua stays in that game against Georgia, Alabama loses. Do you agree with that? That's a strong take. Well, but it was not looking good for a long time.
And isn't he hurt? Isn't he still dealing with knee injuries?
Yeah, he's banged up for a couple of weeks.
It was looking bad, and I thought it was kind of poetic how Jalen Hurts came in and saved the day against Georgia. It all came full circle. But you do have to take that into account. When you can win without a player, how valuable are you to the team? But then this is the same argument that we have with most valuable player in the NBA. Does it go to the best player or does it go to the person that has the best season that year? You have more familiarity with that with the Heisman than I do. I thought it was like single game, single season performance as opposed to what your value is to the team. Because I could have a phenomenal year opposed to anybody else, but just because my team can win without me doesn't mean I'm not better than everybody else that's playing.
All right, another comment here on Tua. This one from Z Mac Gas. Tua, no losses. Kyler, although an amazing player, he has lost to a subpar defense and played subpar defenses all season. That's going to be a popular talking point. People will talk about playing in the SEC versus playing the Big 12 defenses, which I completely understand. Do you think that's Tua's biggest supporting argument, besides being undefeated, but that he's doing it in a conference in the SEC full of guys that are going to be in the NFL next year?
Right. SEC is like the NFL's D-League at some point. That's how I feel. But what can Kyler do? Bring his team into the SEC and play them? You play who's in front of you. And he could have stunk it up. He still could have stunk it up, but he played phenomenally against the defenses and against the teams that were put in front of him. But that is just yet another factor. I can understand why people feel that way.
All right, getting away from the Heisman talk, one last thing we want to break down. Spotify, customizing your playlist of what you listen to the most in 2018. Surprisingly, Thank You Next did not make the cut for mine.
Oh, man.
But Jeff, what was on yours for the 2018 Spotify list?
So, I listen to Spotify randomly, like when I'm trying to listen to find certain playlists. And I don't know why, but somewhere this year, I wanted to listen to Since You've Been Gone. And I hadn't used Spotify that much. So when I go and do the wrap up, the year-end wrap up, it's like I'm the biggest fan of that song ever. And I'm like, hey, it's a great song. Sue me, it's a great song. But that is one of my resolutions in 2019 is to use Spotify more so that my year-end wrap up is a little more diversified.
Yeah, and it would be nice to get the comment section going of what you guys ended up with the most. Obviously, from your Spotify playlist, I don't think mine was that popular. I think a lot of these Heisman and college football players will be listening to Champions.
Right. Oh, yeah. I think mine was like that and like Joe Budden podcast because I downloaded it to definitely listen to the Joe Budden podcast. So it's like, it makes me look like the biggest Joe Budden stan ever, but I need to use Spotify more. Too long didn't read.
Secure the Swag saying overrated. So, not that crazy. Something.
I don't know, man. That was a big tune. That was a big tune when it dropped. I mean, you put it on in a party. See how people react at a party, and you might change your mind.
Speaking of Spotify, on Spotify, you can catch the Stick to Football podcast from Bleacher Report. Myself, Matt Miller, and Mello. We're going to be reacting to the Heisman ceremony Saturday night. That'll be out first thing Monday morning, so you can download that wherever you get your podcasts. See, I think it's going to be Kyler Murray. Final prediction for who you think it's going to be for the Heisman this weekend.
I'll go with the money and say Kyle Murray.
Well, literally the money man.
Yeah, I'll go with the
only
money and say Kyle
that's
Murray.
got the $1 million in the bank account. Right. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for participating in those comments. I'm Connor Rogers, Jeff Johnson. We'll be back Monday with our host Adam Lefko taking over the Instagram Live. We'll catch you guys next week.